Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Apostolos, for inviting me to speak here today. As per the notes about me on the speakers, I have devoted almost exclusively the last 12 months to conducting navigational assessments on board ships underway at sea. This has formed the catalyst of my presentation today, putting navigation back where it belongs. It is over 45 years ago since I commenced my career at sea, and I now feel that I've come full circle and I'm back on the bridge of ships. I'm back to my roots, and here are two interesting photographs I'd like to share with you, which are an interesting display of the contrasts you can see. On the left-hand side, this was taken in the central North Sea in mid-January of this year. And on the right-hand side, that was taken 2 weeks ago off northwest Spain. End of summer, midwinter. Everybody in this room belongs to the world's oldest global industry. We found the world. It's hugely important to the world economy. 90% of trade is carried by sea. Liner shipping alone contributes $400 billion and employs 13.5 million people. As the former IMO Secretary General stated, that if shipping stopped today, within 1 week, half the world would be going hungry and the other half would be living in the dark. But there's one discipline which shipping depends upon and sets it apart from all others: marine navigation. Without navigation, we would not exist. On the last ship that I attended, it was underway. That meant at sea, being navigated for 220 days of the year. That is 220 days by 24 hours when navigation was being practiced. That makes it the single most important activity undertaken by the people on board a ship. It's worthwhile going back in history to see the development of our industry itself. And it's thanks to those explorers and navigators who found the world and opened up the trade routes that we know today. We can see Columbus's first voyages across to the New World. We can see Magellan's voyage around the world. And we can see Cook's voyages of discovery. Not only did Cook do the discovery, but he also charted it at the same time. And as a point of interest, I was born in the same town where his ship sailed from. Compare that with today's marine traffic density map. Look how things have changed. Marine navigation is not free from risk. In fact, the original dangers are still present today. Magellan and Cook were both murdered in distant lands, and seafarers continue to experience this violence today. This second officer had a machete embedded in his brain by a pirate. When they removed it, he went into a coma for 2.5 days, but he was lucky and he recovered, and he is now back at sea. But the risks we normally consider with navigation are ice, heavy weather, grounding, and collision. The first three are natural conditions, the fourth is man-made. And the consequences of those accidents, we can go back to the classic catastrophes. The Titanic, 1,517 lives were lost. Heavy weather, the Derbyshire and the Munchen, 44 and 28, and I now have to add the El Faro, 33 lives lost just last week. Grounding, the Costa Concordia, 33 lives. And we must add here the Exxon Valdez, which caused a massive oil spill, and the wreck removal and cleanup cost, $1.2 and $8 billion respectively. Collision, Doña Paz, 4,375. The largest passenger ships today have far more people on board than the Donya Perth. These are some of the most notorious accidents in history, but the others are occurring far too frequently. Just yesterday at Madrid airport, I looked at trade winds to find out that a gas tanker had hit a Dutch cargo ship off Zeebrugge and it had sunk. The Coast Guard had found one body from the El Faro, and a bulk carrier had hit a dock in Oregon and spilled bunker oil into the river. 3 in one day. But the problem is the space between the same types of incidents is happening too frequently, or the space is reduced, sorry. Learning from history. Sadly, history shows us that we do not learn from history. The number of navigational incidents continues unabated, and what is worse, the same types of incidents are being repeated at alarmingly short intervals. The International Union of Marine Insurers have quoted that navigational incidents accounted for more than 50% of all hull claims. Intertanko stated that navigational incidents were the cause of at least 50% of all pollution incidents, and I'm sure P&I will have some similar statistics. Here are some examples of repetitions. The Pasha Bulker, it went aground in Newcastle, right in front of the port. A couple of years later, the Full City went aground in Norway. Exactly the same type of incident. Then we have the Shengneng 1, which ran aground in the Great Barrier Reef, and the Rena, which ran aground in New Zealand. And nowadays, it's not just in photographs like this, but you can see it on YouTube. Just put in collisions, groundings, capsizes, it's all there in real life. Nobody is immune. All the big names in shipping are having their accidents. I've already gone into print in Lloyd's List on the 6th of January 2012. I wrote an article which was published stating that I felt there was a need for navigational audits. By coincidence, the Costa Concordia happened 1 week later. I've also said that we are not learning lessons from the accidents. They're not reaching the coalface. The seafarers are not getting these on board. And my comments were reflected by the First Lord of the British Admiralty, the former First Lord, Admiral Sir Nigel Eisenhower. How and why? If we want to correct the problem, we really need to find the root cause. And I believe that I have found the root cause of this malaise, not by identifying yet more problems, but a best practice, and had this confirmed by an industry standard text. We have collectively allowed navigation to become unimportant. It's obvious that existing loss prevention measures in place for safe navigation are ineffective. They are not looking at the big picture. Navigation is not inspected, measured, nor, dare I say, discussed at a level commensurate to its overall importance. It is under the radar of nearly all within our industry. It is not even mentioned in the ISM code. And this situation has arisen through a whole series of what I call dangerous assumptions. We are all guilty of making assumptions. But seafarers, at least deck officers, are warned, and they've been warned for a long time through the collision regulations. Assumptions shall not be made on scanty information. So I found what I believed on a ship I visited recently to conduct a navigational assessment. And from the moment that I went on board that ship, there was something very different about it in a good way. And I eventually found the reason in the crew mess. And there on the notice board was a letter from the chairman of the company addressed to the master, officer and crew, thanking them for all their efforts and extolling the disciplines that they undertook on board. And although you've got all these policy statements around the ship, that was the powerful message getting through to the crew. Commitment from the top. Now, as I said, I've been conducting a lot of time conducting navigational assessments, and in my research, going through the Bridge Procedures Guide yet again, I found confirmation of my theory. And right in the first sentence of the introduction, it is stated, the International Chamber of Shipping attaches the utmost importance to safe navigation. So I really believe the solution to reducing the number of navigational incidents is almost free of charge. We need to make navigation important again. It's already been stated by the international organization which represents ship owners worldwide, and all that's required is a simple letter from the very top of the company to all the employees telling them that we depend upon navigation for our very existence, and it's got to be made important again. And I assure you that if that happens, all the elements that go together to make navigation safer will drop into place.